When my foster daughter's real mom showed up drunk at her graduation and filed false neglect claims against me, I lost my job, my home, and my reputation. But I didn't give up. I went after the dark secrets. She hid instead. When I became a foster parent at 32, everyone warned me about getting too attached. But when 14-year-old Maya showed up at my door with a garbage bag of clothes and eyes that had seen too much, I knew nothing could stop me from loving her like my own. I started the adoption process, hired a lawyer, passed background checks. Her bio mom Dana would show up to court hearings reeking of vodka, mascara running down her face, screaming that the system was stealing her baby. Once, she cornered me in the courthouse bathroom, grabbed my shoulders and slurred, "You think you're better than me? You think you can just take her?" I gently removed her hands and said, "I think Maya deserves stability." She spat in my face. But after 2 years, she was finally mine. That night, Maya hugged me for the first time. Really hugged me, not the stiff, obligatory ones before. "Does this mean you won't send me back?" she whispered. "Never," I promised. "You're stuck with me." For those 3 years total, our life fell into a rhythm. Therapy every Tuesday and Thursday, $150 per session that insurance wouldn't cover. I picked up extra shifts at the hospital to afford it. When Maya had night terrors, I'd sit outside her door playing her favorite songs on my phone until she fell back asleep. Dana would still surface occasionally, usually high or hammered, standing on our lawn at 2 a.m. screaming for her baby. Maya would cry for days after, wondering why her real mom couldn't get clean for her. And I always made sure to never say a bad word about Dana, because I knew Maya needed to process that relationship on her own terms. The day Maya got her college acceptance letter, we both cried happy tears. I'd spent countless nights helping her with applications, driving her to campus tours, making sure she knew she was smart enough, good enough. So when graduation day came, I was practically floating with pride. Maya looked radiant in her cap and gown. That's when Dana showed up. She was stumbling hammered, screaming in the middle of the gymnasium that I was a predator who stole her baby. Security had to escort her out while she shrieked about how I'd brainwashed Maya against her real mother. Maya was mortified, but I just held her hand and whispered, "This is your day, baby. Don't let anyone take it from you." After Maya left for college, I thought distance might help. Even when Dana started poisoning Maya against me with lies about how I'd only fostered her for the money and never really loved her, I kept my mouth shut. I quietly set up a college fund to cover everything her scholarships didn't. Every week, I sent care packages, her favorite snacks, little notes of encouragement, gift cards for coffee. When Maya stopped responding to my texts, I still sent them. When she blocked me on social media, I still put money in her account. Because love isn't conditional, and she needed to know someone would always be in her corner. 6 months into freshman year, Maya made Dean's List. I only knew because my friend saw her post, a photo of her holding her grades captioned, "Thanks to my real mom for always believing in me." She even tagged me in the caption. My heart soared. She'd tagged me even though I was blocked. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. What I didn't know was that Dana saw that post too, and if I thought her graduation meltdown was bad, it was nothing compared to what came next. 3 weeks later, I was pulled out of my shift at the Children's Hospital by security. 2 detectives were waiting with a warrant. Dana had filed a report claiming I'd intimately abused Maya during the 3 years she lived with me. The investigation shut down my entire life. I was suspended from my job as a pediatric nurse pending investigation. My other foster kids were removed from my home. My name was dragged through local Facebook groups. Even though Maya immediately went to the police to say it was all lies, the damage was done. You can't unring that bell. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my ability to foster other kids who needed help. But the worst part was still coming. While organizing papers for my lawyer, I found something that made my blood run cold. During the entire 3 years Maya lived with me, Dana had been collecting her disability checks. Every month, $800 that was supposed to help with Maya's care went straight into Dana's account. She'd been getting paid for a child she'd abandoned, while I paid for everything out of pocket. And now, I had proof. The stack of disability payment stubs trembled in my hands as I sat in my lawyer's waiting room. $24,000, 3 years of payments at $800 a month that should have gone toward Maya's therapy, her clothes, her school supplies. All while I worked double shifts to cover everything myself. The receptionist cleared her throat awkwardly. I glanced up to see her shifting uncomfortably behind her desk, phone still in hand. She opened her mouth, closed it, then finally managed to speak. "Ms. Thompson just called. Dana's attorney. She mentioned something about settlement discussions." My hands clenched involuntarily, wrinkling the evidence I'd spent all night organizing. Settlement discussions. As if falsely accusing me of the worst crime imaginable was something we could just negotiate away over coffee. I forced myself to breathe slowly, tucking the papers back into my folder. The waiting room suddenly felt too small, too bright. Other clients sat nearby, absorbed in their phones, unaware that my entire world had imploded 3 weeks ago. My lawyer emerged from his office, took one look at my face, and ushered me inside without a word. I handed him the folder with shaking hands. He flipped through the disability stubs, his expression growing darker with each page. "This changes things," he muttered, already reaching for his legal pad. "We need to file a countersuit immediately." But even as he outlined our legal strategy, energy, all I could think about was Maya. Sweet Maya, who was trying to navigate her freshman year while her biological mother destroyed everything we'd built together. After leaving the lawyer's office, I stopped at the pharmacy to pick up my anxiety medication. The prescription that I'd never needed before Dana's accusations had turned me into a pariah in my own community. The automatic doors whooshed open, and I froze. Dana stood at the prescription counter, waving an insurance card at the pharmacist. Even from across the store, I could hear her frustrated voice carrying over the quiet background music. But this is her insurance information. Maya Thompson. She's my daughter. I need to refill her medications. The pharmacist shook his head patiently. Ma'am, this card expired over a year ago. Without current insurance information, I can't process these prescriptions. I ducked behind an end cap display of vitamins, my heart hammering. Those prescriptions, I recognized them. The anxiety medication and antidepressants Maya had needed during her first year with me, when the trauma was still so fresh. Medications she'd been able to stop taking after 2 years of consistent therapy and stability. Dana slammed her hand on the counter. This is ridiculous. I'm her mother, her real mother. The pharmacist maintained his professional demeanor, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. Other customers were starting to stare. I grabbed my prescription bag from the pickup window while Dana continued her tirade, both of us pretending not to notice each other's presence. I made it to my car without incident, but Dana followed me out. The parking lot was nearly empty, just a few cars scattered under the harsh fluorescent lights. I fumbled with my keys, desperate to escape, but her voice cut through the evening air. You think you're so much better than me, don't you? I turned slowly. Dana stood 10 feet away, her face twisted with rage. The insurance card was still clutched in her hand, bent and wrinkled from her grip. $28,800, I heard myself say. The words came out steady, controlled, nothing like the chaos in my chest. That's how much you collected in disability payments while I paid for Maya's therapy, while I bought her clothes and school supplies and held her through nightmares. Dana's face went red. That money was mine, for my pain and suffering. You stole my baby. I gave her a home. I gave her stability. I gave her love without conditions. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. And you gave her trauma that took years to heal from. You're harassing me, Dana screamed, loud enough that a security guard near the store entrance turned our way. This woman is harassing a grieving mother. Help! She's attacking me! The security guard jogged over, hand already on his radio. He was young, maybe mid-20s, with the eager look of someone new to the job. His eyes darted between us, trying to assess the situation. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step back, he said to me, even though I hadn't moved an inch closer to Dana. She's the one who followed me out here, I protested. But Dana had already started crying. Big, theatrical sobs that would have been almost comical if they weren't so effective. She won't leave me alone, Dana wailed. Ever since she stole my daughter, she's been stalking me, harassing me. I'm just trying to get my baby's medicine. The security guard's expression hardened as he looked at me. Ma'am, I need you to leave the premises immediately. I wanted to scream, wanted to show him the disability stubs in my bag, explain how this woman had collected money for a child she'd abandoned, while simultaneously accusing me of unspeakable crimes. But I could see how it looked. The crying mother versus the angry woman confronting her in a parking lot. I got in my car and drove away, watching in my rearview mirror as the security guard comforted Dana, probably offering to walk her to her car, protecting her from the terrible woman who dared to speak the truth. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my driveway, a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the area code, Maya's college town. My heart leapt, thinking maybe she'd gotten a new phone, maybe she was reaching out. But it wasn't Maya, it was her roommate, Aisha. Hi, this is Aisha, Maya's roommate. I got your number from the emergency contact forms. I need someone to co-sign for an apartment next year, and I was wondering if you could help. Maya said I should ask Dana's friend Patricia instead, but I don't have her number. I stared at the text, reading it 3 times before the words sank in. Patricia, Dana's friend Patricia. Why would Maya tell her roommate to contact some friend of Dana's instead of me? I started typing a response, then deleted it, started again. Finally sent, I'd be happy to help. Can you tell me more about Patricia? The response came quickly. Oh, I think she's Dana's girlfriend? Maya mentioned she's a social worker or something. Really nice, apparently. Maya says she's been helping her mom get back on her feet. Girlfriend. Dana had a girlfriend who was a social worker, someone with professional credibility who could vouch for Dana's character, someone who might even have connections in the system. My phone rang before I could process this new information. My lawyer's name flashed on the screen. We have a problem, he said without preamble. Dana's attorney just filed for an emergency custody hearing regarding your foster child. It's scheduled for the same time as your meeting with the forensic accountant about the disability fraud. I sank onto my porch steps. That's not a coincidence. No, it's not. You'll have to choose. The custody hearing is mandatory. If you don't show, you could lose placement. But if we don't meet with the accountant, Dana has time to close the accounts and claim it was all an administrative error, I finished. Exactly. I thought about the 7-year-old currently at after-school care, waiting for me to pick him up. Jaden had only been with me for 6 months, but he'd already been through 3 foster homes. He needed stability. He needed someone to fight for him, but I also needed to prove what Dana had done. The disability fraud was concrete evidence of her manipulation and lies. Without it, I was just the woman she'd accused of horrible things, trying to retaliate. I'll go to the custody hearing, I said finally. Jaden needs me there. there. My lawyer sighed. I understand, but you know what this means. I did. By the time we could reschedule with the forensic accountant, Dana would have had plenty of time to cover her tracks. Patricia, the social worker girlfriend, probably knew exactly how to make financial records disappear or look legitimate. The next morning brought a cascade of crises. I was making breakfast when my phone rang. Jaden's biological parents' attorney, informing me they were petitioning for reunification. Then the mortgage company called about last month's missed payment, the one I'd skipped to pay my lawyer's retainer. While I was trying to negotiate a payment plan, Maya's former therapist left a voicemail asking me to call her urgently about concerning patterns she needed to discuss. I felt like I was drowning in slow motion, each new crisis pulling me deeper under the surface. The custody hearing was a disaster. I sat in the small courtroom, watching Dana's lawyer paint me as an unstable woman who couldn't properly care for children. They brought up the suspension from my job, the accusations, even the confrontation in the pharmacy parking lot from the security report. Ms. Martinez has a pattern of becoming obsessively attached to children in her care, Dana's lawyer argued. She refuses to accept boundaries, even after they've aged out of the system. I wanted to object, to point out that Maya hadn't aged out. I'd adopted her. She was my daughter, legally and emotionally. But my lawyer kept a warning hand on my arm, reminding me to stay quiet. The judge ordered increased supervision and monitoring for Jaden's placement. Another social worker would be assigned to make weekly visits. More scrutiny, more chances for something to go wrong. After court, I drove Jaden home in silence. He was too young to understand the legal complexities, but he could sense my distress. As I helped him pack his backpack for school the next day, he pulled out a folder of artwork. "Look, I saved all my pictures," he said proudly, showing me crayon drawings of our house, of us at the park, of the dinners we'd shared. My heart sank. In his innocent excitement, he'd given Dana's legal team exactly what they wanted, evidence of my pattern of obsessing over children. The pictures showed Maya's room, still exactly as she'd left it, untouched, preserved, waiting. That evening, exhausted and defeated, I made the mistake of checking Facebook. I should have known better, but some masochistic impulse drove me to look. Dana had posted a tearful video in one of the local mom groups. Her face was carefully made up to look distraught but sympathetic, Patricia's arm visible around her shoulders. "I just want to warn other mothers," Dana said to the camera, voice breaking dramatically. "There are predators out there who specifically target vulnerable children. They isolate them from their loving families. They make these children believe their real parents don't love them. My baby was stolen from me, and now this woman is trying to do it again with another innocent child." The comments were already pouring in. Sympathy, outrage, promises to share the video to protect other families. Someone had even tagged the local news station. My phone rang. Mom. I almost didn't answer, but habit won out. "Honey," she started, and I could hear the pain in her voice. "I just saw Dana sent me this video. I don't want to believe it, but what, Mom?" My voice came out flat, exhausted. "Well, where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And with everything that's happened, maybe you should consider stepping back from fostering, from all of it." I hung up without saying goodbye. My own mother, the woman who'd raised me, who knew my character better than anyone, was starting to doubt me. The next few days blurred together. I met with my lawyer to review discovery documents for the criminal case. He was meticulous, going through every piece of evidence to build my defense. As his assistant gathered papers to copy, she accidentally included a folder meant for another case. For just a moment, Maya's disability payment history was visible on the conference table, full account records showing every deposit, every withdrawal. The assistant realized her mistake within seconds, snatching the papers back with apologies. But I'd seen enough. The payments hadn't just gone to Dana's regular account. They'd been systematically transferred to multiple accounts, then withdrawn as cash. The pattern was clear. This wasn't desperation or addiction. This was calculated fraud. "I'm so sorry," the assistant stammered. "Those weren't supposed to be in there. Please forget you saw them." My lawyer's face was carefully neutral. "We can't use any information from those documents. They were disclosed in error." I nodded, but we both knew the truth was out there. Documented. Real. Even if legal technicalities meant we couldn't use it directly. That evening, the local news ran their segment on foster system failures. They'd taken Dana's video and expanded it into a full story. My face was blurred in the footage, but anyone who knew me would recognize my car in the pharmacy parking lot, my figure in the courthouse hallway. Dana sat in the studio, Patricia beside her, looking every inch the grieving mother fighting for justice. She spoke eloquently about her struggle with addiction, how she'd gotten clean for her daughter, only to find that someone had poisoned Maya against her. "I'm not perfect," Dana said, tears streaming down her face, "but I'm her mother, and mothers don't give up on their children." The anchor nodded sympathetically. "What would you say to other parents who might be going through something similar?" "Document everything," Dana said firmly. "Don't let them isolate your child. Fight for your rights. The system isn't always right." I turned off the TV, feeling sick. She was using my own advice, the guidance I'd given to other foster parents about protecting themselves, against me. My phone buzzed. Another text from an unknown number. This time it was a screenshot from a local Facebook group. Someone had posted a photo of me at the grocery store with a warning. "Suspected predator shops at Kroger on Madison. Keep your children close." The photo was grainy, obviously taken from security footage. It showed me from the confrontation at Maya's graduation, looking angry and aggressive aggressive while Dana cowered away. Out of context, I looked dangerous, unhinged. I abandoned my shopping list and drove home, parking in my garage to avoid any neighbors who might have seen the posts. The isolation was suffocating. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a respected pediatric nurse with a daughter in college and a foster son who was finally starting to trust again. Now I was a pariah, hiding in my own home. The next morning brought another blow. The hospital's interim director called personally. "I'm sorry," she said, though she didn't sound sorry at all. "But given the ongoing situation and the recent media attention, we've decided to make your suspension permanent. Your position has been eliminated due to restructuring." I wanted to ask if Dana's position on the Community Health Board had anything to do with this decision. If the reference letter the interim director needed for the permanent position had factored into the equation, but I already knew the answer. "I understand," I said instead. "Your final check will be mailed to you. Please don't come to the hospital to collect your belongings. We'll have them sent." 20 years of dedication. 20 years of caring for sick children, working holidays, staying late to comfort scared parents. Gone. The financial pressure was immediate and crushing. Without my income, I couldn't afford the mortgage, the lawyer, and Jaden's needs. I started selling things, jewelry, electronics, anything valuable. Each sale felt like another piece of my life being stripped away. My sister called that evening. We'd been close once, before Tommy died. Our brothers drowning when we were teenagers had sent me into a spiral of guilt and grief that took years to overcome. Sarah had been my rock then, helping me through the darkness. "You're spiraling again," she said without preamble. "Just like after Tommy. Remember what the grief counselor said about persecution complexes? This isn't a persecution complex," I protested. "Dana literally accused me of—" "I know what she accused you of, but look at how you're handling it. Confronting her in parking lots, obsessing over financial records, keeping Maya's room like a shrine. It's not healthy. Her room isn't a shrine. I just haven't had time to— It's been 6 months, and now you're dragging another foster kid into this mess. What happens to him when you completely fall apart?" I hung up on her too. Another bridge burned, another support lost, but the worst was yet to come. Dana had screenshot my old Facebook posts about Maya, innocent updates I'd shared with friends and family about her progress, her challenges, her victories, posts about how she was learning to trust again, how therapy was helping, how proud I was of her resilience. Now those same posts were being shared in mom groups with Dana's commentary. "Look how she documented my daughter's vulnerabilities, classic grooming behavior. She was studying her, learning her weaknesses. Every word I'd written in love and pride was being twisted into something sinister." The comments were vicious. "This is textbook predator behavior. She was clearly obsessed with that poor girl. Thank God the real mother fought to expose her." I tried to defend myself, to provide context, but Dana's lawyer immediately flagged it as attempting to intimidate witnesses in an ongoing investigation. Another mark against me. Another example of my refusal to accept boundaries. The meeting with the forensic accountant was rescheduled for 2 weeks out. By then, as predicted, Maya's disability account had been closed. Dana claimed it was an administrative error that had been corrected as soon as it was brought to her attention. The bank records we could access showed the account closure, but not the systematic withdrawals I'd glimpsed in my lawyer's office. Without those detailed records, proving fraud would be nearly impossible. I was running out of money, out of options, out of hope. The only thing keeping me going was Jaden, who still needed stability, still needed someone to fight for him, even as his biological parents made their bid for reunification. One evening, while helping him with homework, he mentioned something that made my blood run cold. "Maya's real mom came to see me at school today," he said casually, coloring in a worksheet. "She brought me ice cream and said you can't afford it anymore. She said you're sick and need help." My hands stilled. "When did this happen?" "During lunch. She was really nice. She said she knows what it's like to have someone try to take you away from your family." Dana had approached my foster child at school, had bought him ice cream, had planted seeds of doubt about me, and she'd done it in a way that would look completely innocent, just a concerned woman being kind to a child. I called the school immediately, but the damage was done. They'd had no reason to prevent a community member from buying ice cream for students during lunch. Dana hadn't technically violated any rules, but now Jaden was asking questions. "Are you really sick? Is that why you look so tired all the time? Maya's mom said you need help but won't admit it." I tried to reassure him, but I could see the doubt creeping in. Dana was playing a long game, and she was winning. That night, unable to sleep, I went through Maya's old things. Not the shrine my sister accused me of keeping, just boxes of memories I couldn't bear to pack away. Birthday cards she'd made me, the Mother's Day gift from her first year with me, a painted handprint with "Thank you for choosing me" written in her careful script. At the bottom of one box, I found her journal from high school. I'd never read it, respecting her privacy even now, but desperation made me open it. The entries were heartbreaking, page after page about her fear of Dana, about the nights she'd lie awake worrying her bio mom would find a way to take her back, about how guilty she felt for being happy with me when Dana was suffering. One entry stopped me cold. "I know mom spends too much on my therapy. I heard her on the phone with the bank. I wish I could tell her about the checks Dana gets, but I'm scared it would start another fight. Maybe when I'm older and stronger I can fix this myself." She'd known. My sweet, traumatized daughter had known about the disability fraud and carried that weight alone to protect me. I was still crying over the the journal when my phone rang. My best friend since nursing school, Melissa. We'd been through everything together. School, marriages, divorces, career challenges. If anyone would stand by me, it would be her. I believe you, she said immediately. I know you'd never hurt Maya or any child, but there was a long pause. My husband says if I testify as a character witness, he'll file for divorce. He doesn't want our family associated with this scandal. I have 3 kids. I can't lose them. Another ally gone. Another person who believed me, but couldn't afford to support me publicly. The next day brought fresh humiliation. At the grocery store, trying to stretch my dwindling funds to feed Jaden and myself, I noticed other shoppers actively avoiding me. Mothers pulled their children closer. Conversations stopped when I passed. I didn't understand until I got home and checked Facebook. Someone had posted a warning in the local community group. Alert: suspected predator shops at Kroger on Madison Avenue. See attached video from graduation incident. Keep your children safe. The video was from Maya's graduation, showing me trying to comfort her while Dana screamed in the background. But the angle and editing made it look like I was restraining Maya while she tried to get to her real mother. The comments were brutal. I saw her there yesterday. Gave me the creeps. My kids go to that Kroger after school. This is terrifying. Someone should do something before another child gets hurt. I was becoming a monster in my own community's mythology. The truth didn't matter anymore. The narrative had taken on a life of its own. My lawyer called with more bad news. Dana was claiming she'd always sent money orders for Maya's care, and conveniently, Western Union's records from that period were unavailable due to system upgrades. It's possible she sent some money, my lawyer said carefully. We can't prove she didn't. She didn't send anything, I said flatly. Not 1 penny. I have all my bank records showing no deposits from her. Absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. A jury might believe she tried to contribute, but you refused to accept it. Everything I'd done out of love was being reframed as control. Every sacrifice recast as manipulation. Every protective instinct painted as obsession. I thought things couldn't get worse. Then I found out Dana was dating someone in my adoption support group, Marcus, who'd adopted siblings from foster care and understood the challenges. We'd become friends, sharing resources and encouragement. Now he was with Dana, and she was mining him for information about my patterns of behavior. He'd innocently shared stories about our conversations, including one where I'd mentioned feeling like I was trying to heal from losing Tommy by saving other children. Dana had pounced on that vulnerability, twisting it into evidence of my unhealthy motivations for fostering, my grief over my brother's death, my desire to protect children who needed help. It all became part of her narrative of me as an unstable woman using foster children to fill emotional voids. The forensic accountant finally reviewed what records we could access. Without the detailed transaction history, he could only confirm that payments had been made to Dana's account and that the account was now closed. The casino withdrawals I'd glimpsed were invisible in the sanitized records Dana had left behind. I'm sorry, he said. Without more comprehensive documentation, I can't build a strong case for systematic fraud. That night, I sat in my car outside the Thai restaurant where Maya had worked during high school summers. The elderly owners, who'd always been so kind to us, had asked me not to come inside anymore. The drama was upsetting their customers. I thought about Maya, probably studying in her dorm room, trying to focus on finals while her 2 mothers destroyed each other. I wondered if she knew how far things had escalated, if she understood that Dana's war against me was really about those disability checks, about being caught in her fraud. My phone buzzed. A text from Dana. Drop the fraud allegations, and I'll consider mediation on the other matter. This doesn't have to destroy both of us. I stared at the message, understanding the implicit threat. Keep pursuing the fraud charges, and she'd keep pushing the false allegations. Back down, and maybe she'd let me salvage something from the wreckage of my life. But I thought about Maya's journal entry, about her knowing the truth and staying silent to protect me, about all the other children Dana might manipulate and exploit if someone didn't stop her. I typed back, "The truth matters. See you in court." Dana's response was immediate. "Then we both know how this ends. Only one of us survives this." She was right. This war would have only one winner. And looking at my empty bank account, my destroyed reputation, my crumbling support system, I wasn't sure it would be me. But I'd made a promise to Maya once, when she'd asked if I'd ever send her back. Never, I'd told her. And that meant never giving up, never backing down, never letting Dana's lies become the truth, even if it cost me everything else. I drove home from the Thai restaurant with Dana's threat echoing in my mind. The next morning, I woke to find my car had been egged overnight. Dried yolk streaked down the windshield, and someone had scratched Predator into the paint on the driver's side door. I spent an hour scrubbing it off before taking Jaden to school, knowing the damage to the paint was permanent. At the school drop-off, other parents steered their children away from us. One mother I'd volunteered with at the spring carnival actually pulled her daughter behind her when we walked past. Jaden noticed, his small hand tightening in mine. The support group meeting that evening was my last hope for maintaining some normalcy. These were people who understood the challenges of adoption, who'd been through similar struggles. But when I walked into the community center, conversations stopped. Marcus sat in the corner with Dana, her hand on his knee, wearing one of Maya's old college sweatshirts that she must have taken from somewhere. I took my usual seat, but the chair next to me remained empty. Then another. Soon, I was sitting alone in a circle of people who'd once been my closest allies. When it came time to share, the facilitator skipped over me entirely. During the break, I overheard Dana telling Marcus about finding Maya's old diary. She pulled out her phone, showing him photos of pages where Maya had written about missing her real family. The entries were real. I recognized Maya's handwriting, but they were from her first months with me, when she was still processing the trauma. Dana didn't mention the later entries where Maya wrote about finally feeling safe, finally having a real home. I left without saying goodbye. In the parking lot, I found a flyer under my windshield wiper. Protect Our Children, Neighborhood Watch Meeting, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Someone had circled it in red marker and written, "We're watching you." The next day brought a call from Maya's former therapist. She was careful with her words, professional but distant. She explained that she'd been reviewing old session notes and noticed some patterns she felt obligated to report. When I pressed for details, she admitted someone had filed a complaint with the licensing board about her treatment of Maya, suggesting she'd failed to recognize signs of abuse. Now she was protecting herself by questioning everything about Maya's time with me. I understood. Another professional forced to choose between supporting me and protecting their career. The circle of destruction kept widening. That afternoon, while Jaden was at school, I drove past the bank where I'd seen Dana make those casino withdrawals. The parking lot triggered a memory. Maya mentioning once that Dana would take her to the casino restaurant for her birthday when she was little, before child services got involved. She'd leave me at the arcade with $20 while she played slots, Maya had said, sometimes for hours. I sat in my car, watching people come and go, wondering how many other details I'd missed, how many other ways Dana had been failing Maya while collecting money meant for her care. My phone rang, the school counselor asking me to come in immediately. My heart sank. When I arrived, Jaden was sitting in her office, looking small and confused. The counselor showed me a picture Jaden had drawn during art class. It showed two women pulling a girl in opposite directions. He'd labeled them Nice Mom and Real Mom. The girl in the middle was crying. He says Maya's real mom told him this is what happened to Maya, the counselor explained, that you took her away from her real family. He's been asking other children if they live with their real parents or fake ones. I tried to explain, but the counselor's expression remained carefully neutral. She made notes about concerning behavior and possible emotional disturbance. Another report, another mark against me. On the drive home, Jaden was quiet. Finally, he asked if I was going to have to give him back too. The question broke my heart. I assured him that wouldn't happen, but I could see he didn't believe me. Dana's poison was working. That evening, I discovered Dana had created a Facebook page called Justice for Maya Thompson. It was filled with photos of Maya as a child, photos I'd never seen before, from before she came to me. Dana must have saved them all these years. The captions told a story of a loving mother torn from her child by a corrupt system and a predatory foster parent. The page already had over 500 followers. People were sharing their own stories of losing children to the system, rallying around Dana as a symbol of parental rights. Someone had started a GoFundMe for her legal fees. It had raised $3,000 in 2 days. I watched the comments roll in, each one another nail in my coffin. Someone posted a photo they'd taken of me at the grocery store, captioned, "Spotted in aisle 3, keep your kids close." Another shared a theory that I'd targeted Maya specifically because she was vulnerable. The speculation grew wilder with each comment. My lawyer called with updates on the criminal case. The prosecutor was moving forward despite Maya's statement that the allegations were false. They had to investigate thoroughly, he explained. These things could take months, maybe a year, all while my life remained in limbo. Dana's lawyer is pushing for a plea deal, he said. You'd have to register as an intimacy offender, but you'd avoid jail time. For something I didn't do? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm not recommending it, just keeping you informed of all options. I hung up feeling sick. The fact that pleading guilty to something I didn't do was even being discussed as an option showed how bad things had gotten. The next morning, I woke to find my front yard covered in stuffed animals. At first, I thought it was some kind of support gesture. Then I saw the note tied to one of them. For all the children you'll never hurt again. I was cleaning them up when my elderly neighbor came outside. We'd been friendly for years, sharing garden vegetables and watching each other's homes during vacations. She wouldn't make eye contact. I think you should know, she said quietly. There's a petition going around to have you removed from the neighborhood for property values and safety. She hurried back inside before I could respond. I stood there holding an armful of donated teddy bears meant to mock my pain, wondering how much lower I could sink. The custody review for Jaden was scheduled for the following week. I spent every spare moment preparing, gathering character references from the few people still willing to support me. My former colleague from the hospital, Dr. Chen, agreed to write a letter about my professional conduct over 20 years, but she asked that her name be kept confidential. Even supporting me anonymously was a risk. 3 days before the hearing, Jaden's biological parents filed an emergency motion. They claimed I was exposing their son to danger by keeping him in a home where criminal investigations were ongoing. Their lawyer argued that regardless of guilt or innocence, the mere presence of such serious allegations made my home unsuitable. I watched Jaden pack his things into the same type of garbage bag Maya had arrived with years ago. He was trying not to cry. I gave him a photo of us at the park and promised we'd see each other again soon. We both knew I was lying. After he left, I sat in his empty room for hours. 2 children I'd loved and lost, 2 empty bedrooms, 2 failures to protect the kids who needed me. The financial strain was becoming unbearable. With no income and mounting legal bills, I'd maxed out my credit cards. The mortgage company sent a notice of impending foreclosure. I had 60 days to catch up on payments or lose the house I'd made into a home for Maya. I started looking for work, but news of the allegations had spread throughout the medical community. Every application I submitted seemed to disappear into a void. One recruiter actually called to tell me she'd been instructed not to process my application. "I'm sorry," she said, "but with the current situation, desperate, I applied for jobs outside healthcare, retail, food service, anything." But a simple Google search of my name brought up the news articles, the Facebook pages, the accusations. No one would hire me. I sold my grandmother's engagement ring to pay for groceries, then my laptop, then the dining room set Maya and I had picked out together for her 16th birthday. Each sale felt like erasing another memory. One afternoon, while waiting in my lawyer's office, I overheard his assistant on the phone. "No, we can't take any more pro bono cases. We're already overextended with the Martinez situation." I was a charity case. The successful pediatric nurse who'd once donated to legal aid was now draining their resources. Dana, meanwhile, was thriving. Her GoFundMe had reached $8,000. She'd been interviewed by 3 different podcasts about parental alienation and foster care corruption. Patricia had used her social work credentials to lend credibility to Dana's story. They appeared together at rallies, the reformed addict and her supportive partner, fighting for justice. I learned from Marcus, in a brief, guilty phone call where he claimed he was just trying to help, that Dana was writing a book. My Stolen Daughter, A Mother's Fight Against the System. A publisher was interested. There might be a documentary. She was building a career on destroying me. The forensic accountant called with one last attempt to trace the disability payments. He'd found something interesting, a pattern of ATM withdrawals from casinos, always on the same days Maya had therapy appointments. While I was paying $150 to help Maya heal, Dana was gambling with money meant for Maya's care. But without subpoena power, he couldn't get the casino's surveillance footage that might prove Dana was the one making the withdrawals, and no judge would grant a subpoena based on what we had. "I'm sorry," he said. "The evidence is there, but we can't reach it." Of my life. Truth just out of reach, while lies spread like wildfire. My mother called again. This time, she was crying. "Someone sent me a link to that Facebook page," she said. "The things they're saying about you. Some of them are calling for vigilante justice. I'm scared for you." "Then help me," I begged. "Tell people the truth. You know me. You raised me. I can't get involved. Your father has a heart condition. The stress. And what if they come after us too?" Another bridge burned. Another ally lost to fear. The next day, I discovered Dana had filed a civil suit. She was suing me for emotional distress, claiming my false allegations about disability fraud were an attempt to further alienate Maya from her biological mother. She wanted damages, hundreds of thousands of dollars I didn't have. My lawyer explained that even if I won, defending against the suit would cost tens of thousands more. Dana knew I was broke. This was just another way to bleed me dry. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a calculator, trying to figure out how long I could last. 2 weeks, maybe 3 if I only ate once a day. The electricity would be shut off next week, unless I could find $400. The water bill was already overdue. I thought about Maya, probably studying for finals, trying to maintain her grades while her mothers tore each other apart. I wondered if she knew how bad things had gotten, if she felt guilty, if she blamed herself. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number. I almost didn't check it, tired of the harassment. But something made me look. It was a photo of Maya's dorm building. Nothing else, just the building. The threat was clear. Dana knew where Maya lived. She had people watching. I called my lawyer immediately, but he sounded defeated. "It's not technically a threat," he said. "It's just a photo of a building. The police won't do anything." I wanted to scream. Dana could document my every move, twist every word, destroy my life piece by piece, and it was all legal. But I couldn't even warn people about what she'd done without being accused of harassment. The next morning brought another blow. A letter from the state nursing board. Someone had filed a complaint about my mental fitness to practice nursing. Even though I'd already lost my job, they were moving to revoke my license entirely. There would be a hearing, more lawyers, more costs, more humiliation. I sat on my porch steps, holding the letter, when I noticed a van parked across the street. Local news. They were filming my house, probably for another segment on safety concerns in the neighborhood. I went inside and closed all the curtains, but I could still feel their cameras watching, waiting for me to do something they could twist into evidence of my guilt. That afternoon, I did something I'd sworn I wouldn't. I created a fake social media profile and joined Dana's support groups. I needed to know what she was planning, what lies she was spreading. What I found made my blood run cold. Dana was coaching other parents on how to file false allegations against foster parents they wanted to remove from their children's lives. She was sharing templates for complaints, lists of which agencies to contact, how to phrase accusations for maximum impact. "The system protects them, not us," she wrote. "We have to use their own rules against them. Sometimes you have to lie to expose the truth." She was creating a playbook for destroying lives like mine, and people People were thanking her for it. I screenshotted everything, but my lawyer warned me not to share it. You're already accused of stalking and harassment. This would make it worse. So I had evidence of Dana teaching others to file false allegations, but I couldn't use it, just like the disability fraud. Truth trapped behind legal technicalities while lies ran free. The next day, while I was at the food bank, swallowing my pride to feed myself, someone recognized me. They took a photo. Within hours, it was on Facebook. Suspected child predator shopping with your donated food. The food bank director called me that evening. She was apologetic but firm. My presence was making other clients uncomfortable. They'd received threats. For everyone's safety, I would need to find somewhere else to get assistance. I hung up and laughed. Actually laughed. It was that, or scream. I'd been banned from the food bank. Rock Bottom had a basement, apparently. My sister called one last time. She was moving to another state with her family. The association with me was affecting her husband's business. Parents didn't want to hire a contractor whose sister-in-law was accused of such horrible things. I know you didn't do it, she said, but perception is reality, and the perception is unaliving too. I understood. The blast radius of Dana's lies kept expanding, taking out everyone close to me. Soon, I'd be completely alone. That night, unable to sleep again, I found myself reading through old text messages from Maya, hundreds of them, from over the years. Mundane things mostly, requests for rides, reminders about appointments, jokes about her teachers, but scattered throughout were moments of love. Thanks for believing in me. You're the best mom ever. I'm so glad you chose me. I wondered if she still felt that way, if she knew I was fighting for her, even now, if she understood that everything I'd lost was worth it because she'd been safe with me for those precious years. My phone rang at 3 a.m., unknown number. I answered, expecting another threat, but it was Maya's voice, barely a whisper. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know what she's doing. I know about the money. I have proof, but I'm scared. She said if I testify for you, she'll release things about me. Things from before. Things that will ruin my life too. The line went dead before I could respond. I tried calling back, but the number was blocked. I sat in the dark, phone in hand, understanding finally the full scope of Dana's game. She wasn't just destroying me. She was holding Maya hostage with secrets from her past, ensuring her silence. The war between us had always been about control, and Dana had found the ultimate weapon, Maya's own trauma, weaponized against us both. I sat in the dark for hours after Maya's call, my mind racing through possibilities. The next morning brought an email from Maya's freshman advisor, the one who owed her career to my recommendation years ago. She'd agreed to show Maya evidence of the fraud, and now she was updating me. Maya had spent 3 hours in her office reviewing bank statements and withdrawal patterns. The advisor described Maya's reaction in clinical terms, shock giving way to anger, then determination. That afternoon, while I was organizing what remained of my possessions to sell, my phone rang. The prosecutor's office. They'd received new documentation. Maya had submitted recordings from her phone, conversations with Dana spanning months. The assistant prosecutor's voice carried barely contained excitement as she explained that Maya had been documenting everything since high school. I drove to the courthouse to review the evidence. In a small conference room, I listened to recording after recording. Dana's voice, slurred and aggressive, demanding money from Maya's college fund. Threats about revealing details from Maya's time in previous foster homes. Admissions about the disability checks. Casual mentions of casino trips funded by money meant for Maya's care. The forensic accountant was called back in. With Maya's cooperation and the recordings as probable cause, he could now access the full financial records. The pattern that emerged was devastating. Systematic withdrawals totaling over $28,000, always within hours of deposit, always at casino ATMs. Dana had even taken cash advances against the disability account, accruing interest that depleted the funds further. 3 days later, Dana's carefully constructed narrative began unraveling. Patricia, faced with potential charges as an accessory, chose self-preservation. She arrived at the prosecutor's office with boxes of documents, text messages where Dana bragged about her scheme, photos of casino receipts, even a journal where Dana had tracked her gambling wins and losses, funded by Maya's disability money. The prosecutor moved swiftly. Federal charges for disability fraud, state charges for perjury. The false allegations against me were formally dismissed, but the damage to my life remained very real. I attended Dana's arraignment, sitting in the back row of the courtroom. She looked smaller somehow. Her theatrical confidence evaporated. When the judge read the charges, she broke down completely. Not the calculated tears from her public performances, but genuine devastation. Patricia sat in the gallery, having already negotiated immunity in exchange for testimony. Maya testified via video link from college. Her words were measured, clinical almost. She detailed years of manipulation, the constant threats, the fear that kept her silent. She produced her own journal, not the one Dana had selectively quoted from, but a hidden digital diary documenting every interaction, every threat, every stolen dollar she'd tracked. The judge ordered psychological evaluations for all parties. Dana's evaluation revealed a complex mix of personality disorders, gambling addiction, and genuine trauma from losing custody of Maya as a young mother. It didn't excuse her actions, but it painted a picture of a deeply damaged woman whose pain had metastasized into cruelty. During During the financial audit, more evidence surfaced. Dana had opened credit cards in Maya's name, maxing them out at casinos. She'd claimed Maya as a dependent on tax returns while I was paying all her expenses. The fraud went deeper than anyone had imagined. The criminal trial was set for 6 months out. In the meantime, I faced my own battles. The nursing board hearing was grueling. Even with the false allegations dismissed, questions remained about my judgment and professional boundaries. They ultimately agreed to reinstate my license with 2 years of probation and mandatory supervision. Finding work proved nearly impossible. My name was permanently linked to the scandal in online searches. One potential employer told me bluntly that while they believed I was innocent, they couldn't risk the association. I finally found part-time work at a small clinic an hour away, where the elderly doctor either hadn't Googled me or didn't care. I sold the house to avoid foreclosure, moving into a 1-bedroom apartment near the clinic. Maya's room, which Sarah had called a shrine, was finally packed away. Each box felt like accepting a new reality. I was no longer the mother of a daughter at home, just someone who loved a young woman finding her own way. The adoption support group formally asked me not to return. Marcus had broken things off with Dana after learning the truth, but the group dynamics were irreparably damaged. I found myself truly alone for the first time in years. Maya and I began tentative communication through her advisor. Not direct contact yet, she wasn't ready, but updates on her life, her progress in therapy, her academic achievements. She'd changed her major to social work, determined to help other children trapped between toxic biological parents and a system that often failed them. Dana's trial arrived with unexpected media attention, not the nationwide sensation I'd feared, but local coverage that reignited community judgment. I testified for 2 days, detailing the financial abuse, the false allegations, the systematic destruction of my life. Dana's attorney tried to paint me as vindictive, but the evidence was overwhelming. The verdict was guilty on all counts. The judge, reviewing the case's impact on all parties, crafted an unusual sentence: 2 years in a residential treatment facility specializing in gambling addiction and personality disorders, followed by 5 years of probation. All future earnings would be garnished for restitution to Maya's therapy fund, with me appointed as financial guardian to ensure the money went to its intended purpose. Dana's breakdown at sentencing was complete. She sobbed about losing her baby twice, first to the system, then to her own actions. For the first time, I saw not a monster, but a broken woman whose unhealed trauma had created a cascade of destruction. It didn't erase my anger, but it complicated it. The community reaction was mixed. Some saw me as a saint who'd sacrificed everything for my daughter. Others viewed me as someone who'd destroyed a grieving mother. The Facebook group split into warring factions. I stayed off social media entirely, focusing on rebuilding some semblance of a life. 6 months after the trial, I received a letter from Maya, handwritten, 3 pages. She wasn't ready to see me yet, but she wanted me to know she understood. She'd been in therapy, processing not just Dana's abuse, but the complex grief of losing the mother she'd found in me. She thanked me for fighting for the truth, even when it cost everything. I started attending a support group for parents estranged from their children, not by choice, but by circumstance. We shared stories of love interrupted, of relationships forever changed by trauma and its aftermath. It wasn't healing exactly, but it was acknowledgement that sometimes love means accepting distance. My work at the clinic was routine, far from the pediatric ward I'd loved, but there was dignity in small service, in being useful even in reduced circumstances. The other nurses knew my story, but treated me with professional courtesy. It was enough. A year later, Maya sent another letter. She'd made Dean's List again, was applying for graduate programs. She included a photo, not of herself, but of a sunset from her dorm window. A small gesture, but it meant she was thinking of me, wanting to share beauty even across the distance between us. I learned from the prosecutor that Dana was responding well to treatment. The structured environment, forced sobriety, and intensive therapy were addressing issues that had festered for decades. She'd written apology letters to Maya as part of her treatment, though Maya hadn't read them yet. The financial restitution began flowing, small amounts from Dana's work program at the facility, but symbolically important. Every dollar that should have gone to Maya's care was finally being redirected to help her heal. I managed the fund carefully, providing detailed accounts to the court. 2 years after that first phone call in the dark, I attended Maya's college graduation, not as her mother in the traditional sense, but as someone who loved her and had been invited to witness her achievement. I sat several rows behind Dana, who attended under supervision from the treatment facility, her day pass carefully negotiated. Maya's speech as social work program valedictorian was powerful. She spoke about resilience, about systems that fail children, about the complex nature of love and harm. She thanked her professors, her friends, her therapist. Then she said something that made my breath catch. She thanked the 2 women who'd shaped her life in very different ways, who'd loved her imperfectly, but completely. After the ceremony, Maya approached me briefly. Not the running hug I'd dreamed of, but a quiet moment of acknowledgement. She was starting graduate school in the fall, had an internship lined up with Child Protective Services. She was turning her pain into purpose. I watched her walk away to join her friends, this remarkable young woman who'd survived so much. The war between Dana and me had no real winner. We'd all been forever changed, all bore scars that would never fully heal. But Maya had found her own strength, her own voice. She'd refused to be a weapon in anyone's war, choosing instead to forge her own path. I drove home to my small apartment, to my quiet life so different from what I'd imagined. The cost of truth had been everything I'd built, but in the ruins, something else had emerged. Not redemption exactly, but a kind of peace. Maya was safe, was thriving, was choosing her own future, and sometimes that has to be enough.